Mr. Turpin, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I survived Art Basel.
Survived?
So I'm survived. Yeah, it was
Conquered.
like crazy. I mean, what NFTs have done this year, and I think it's going to benefit Puerto Rico. It was, I mean, NFT NYC in early 2020 was 300 people. This year was 10,000 people.
It was amazing. I was there.
Art Basel, of course, took a year off because of COVID, and it went from maybe 2 events to like 200 events around NFTs. And man, I had more people in my Miami condo for a little party I had than I had for the entire opening party at Quite Agenda. That's how crazy it was. And the reason I mention this is 2 things. Number one, a friend of mine who was hoping to come down to Puerto Rico just disappeared for a few days. And she said, I was in bed with the flu for 5 days after partying at Art Basel. And she, you know how they mark these things when you're safe from earthquakes? Marked safe from Art Basel.
Art Basel was pretty cool, but we're here to talk about Puerto Rico, sir.
Yes. Well, the reason I bring it up is because, as you know, I first moved here in early 2016, sort of the first wave of the crypto crowd to come down here. And really, from the beginning, I wanted to go and see what we could do to make this both a friendly jurisdiction for other crypto people, because I saw it in the laws, and also, living here, how do we integrate and empower the community to use cryptocurrency, blockchain, and the power of what's developed that we didn't even know many of the things were going to happen to really bring the diaspora back to get jobs, let entrepreneurs on the island create their own world down here, and just make this into a mecca for all the things good about blockchain. And, this is now 6 years in, and our 5th coin agenda, and I think we're really making progress.
Ultimately, what makes you feel like Puerto Rico is the next hub for cryptocurrency, and what is it that's so attractive? Aside from actual tax benefits, which are obvious, it's the only place in the United States that can get zero capital gains tax, which is imperative to our community. But aside from that, what do you see that makes Puerto Rico the spot?
Well, a tax lawyer who is not Giovanni basically said at an Act 2022 event a few years ago, he said, look, be honest, you would not be here if you had to live in Chernobyl and get the exact same benefits. So, yes, it's great that you're able to go in and have these great tax benefits that are unique for Americans, but really it's the community that brings people down and keeps them down. And the community has gotten better and stronger every year. I have this sort of concept of magical cities. I mean, they actually call Miami's nickname is actually called Magic City, and I think it's because it grew so fast. It was 100,000 people in World War II, and now it's 6.2 million. Somebody else said it's because traffic appears magically at 4 o'clock every day. But and sorry, water would be good. Still my post the recovery from Art Basel. At any rate, not COVID though, been tested. So basically, every year, great people come down and connect with the community. You, by the way, have been a great connector, along with Alberto Bacco and others who are saying, show the community what you have to offer. Let me introduce you to people who will understand, because understanding is what creates community, right? And if you have people on one side throwing rocks at people on the other side, like you had in Northern Ireland, had in the Middle East for so many years, then nobody talks to each other, everybody hates each other. And when you actually have things like what Alberto Bacco has created with Partnership for Modern Puerto Rico, where you have some of the oldest, most established families, breaking bread with the people coming down here, and Act 20 companies now are 5% of the economy from 0 a few years ago. And that just really gets the fear factor away, gets the friendships happening, and and then people look and they see more prominent people. I mean, when I was going down here, they're like, okay, there's this crazy guy down here. And then Brock comes down 2 years later, and it's like, okay, there's 50 crazy guys down here. They're kind of helping out after the hurricane. And now when Dan Moorhead came down, when David Johnson came down, I mean, all of a sudden it's like it's safe to get in the water. And people are like, well, what do you think of it? Is it a great place to live? It's like a great place to live, great place to do business. And thanks to you and others, there are more things to do, than New York or San Francisco in a given week in terms of meeting up and getting business done.
Yeah, ultimately, I like to remind people again that the culture that we have as Puerto Ricans is not something that needs to be changed or corrupted or even imported. The culture we have in spades, right? And in Dubai, they have those of you who don't know, I spend a lot of my time in Dubai, half time in Dubai, half in Puerto Rico. And in Dubai, they actually have a minister of happiness. And it's an incredible title, and it seems like silly to think about that when you have such a large scale metropolis like Dubai is. That they actually have somebody whose sole purpose is to actually check the happiness and the condition of the people. In Puerto Rico, you have that in spades, right? And this welcoming, this loving community aspect that we have was something that I tried to implement from day one. Tried is a word, I feel like I have implemented from day one upon our arrival here in Puerto Rico, and it's what extends to all of you guys. So, like what Mr. Turpin here is alluding to about how tax benefits are cool, and it's kind of like it's what entices you. It's like the hook, it's the bait, right? It's what you tell people. Hey, we have great tax benefits, and it's the only place in the country. I tell people often, especially people out of New York and California, that you could literally double your take home by the standard of living being cheaper here than it is in those two places specifically, and as well as the tax benefits giving you more take home. You'll literally pretty much double your income,
triple it
at times. Yeah, depending.
California, they take 2/3 between capital gains and the top income rate. And then comparing dollar for dollar, you can't compare everything to Dorado Beach, right? I mean, there's a wonderful place you can get very affordably in Luquillo and Santurce and Guaynabo.
No, 100%. But ultimately, what keeps you here is the culture and the people that we have here are so welcoming and so inviting and so loving. And it's the reason why our community in general, we are very different than other places. I mean, I lived in Miami for 5 years. I know you have a residence in Miami currently. Prior to moving to Puerto Rico, I lived in Miami for 5 years. I'm obviously, a New Yorker those who can't recognize my accent. And I've lived in big cities all over the world. And typically, you don't know your neighbor. You don't know your neighbor. You may know a couple of people if you live in a high-rise place like Mr. Turpin has a couple of them in the places I've lived in as well. You may know a couple of people on your floor, maybe a couple of people in your building. You typically don't know your neighbors, which is something that isolates you, and it kind of puts you in this environment where you create your home to be the epicenter of your life, and everything else is ancillary to that. In Puerto Rico, it's a little bit of different flavor. Don't get me wrong, we all have nice homes, and we all entertain, and we all share each other's residences and do things together. But typically, what we have here more than anything else is an environment that's warm and welcoming to everyone, and we all kind of move together. And you're usually in rooms with movers and shakers because of these tax benefits. It gives you an immediate filter, but you don't have to necessarily check to see if a person is actually who he says he is, because automatically he wouldn't be here if he was here for these tax benefits. And the only way you're here for tax benefits, you've already made some money that you're worried about keeping. So from that perspective, it seems like we're creating a very good ecosystem built of entrepreneurs that have a successful track record already, that are typically between 30 to 50 years old, and that are building the new wave of technology that ultimately the entire world will live under. So I look at Puerto Rico from that aspect as being maybe Silicon Valley 2.0, but with the internet, and it's going to give us accelerated growth rate potential. And then when you combine that with typically non-Spanish speaking people on a majority Spanish speaking island, it actually concentrates us more into specific areas and specific events more and more often, over and over and over again. And what happens when you put really smart people together in a room that have resources and have a desire to create, because if you look at the age groups of this demographic, then what's going to happen is we're going to start to build a lot of really cool shit. And that's what's happening now. And you can see it more and more, and it's going to evolve. And once it actually takes traction, it will grow exponentially. And you'll see so many things coming out of Puerto Rico that the rest of the world will be like, wow, what happened?
Well, I think one sort of thing that has helped from the pandemic is that the reasons people told me that they couldn't move down from San Francisco, LA, New York, they love their Broadway shows, they love their country club, they love their place that they used to go to, the restaurant or private club. They couldn't get into them. All of a sudden, they're like, when I take that away, and I'm barely able to see my friends, and then I go visit Puerto Rico, and things are, safe because, you wear masks in and take them off or whatever. But it's still a very warm, culture where you're able to go in, whether you're, hanging with Rico friends or with Act 60 friends or a mixture of. I mean, I hold these mixers on my rooftop in Miramar, and I always aim to have about a 50-50 split. And a lot of it is things like, the crypto curious and other things that are, sort of homegrown in Spanish, crypto education classes. And then with Ben moving down from the college, the Blockchain Entertainment Education Network, and what you've, of course, done, to really expand. Everybody comes down any week. There's going to be, between you and Isaac, there's going to be like 100 people and some great guests talking about various aspects of crypto, and it just sucks them into the community, and then they end up going to, Kyle's events on Thursdays at Fogo de Chao. They go to my events once a month. They go to, they get invited to, private parties, and it's just like, it's a very quick integration into community. I mean, a lot of times you move to a community and you don't know anybody. It can take you a year to make friends. You come down here, you'll make friends within days.
Come meet me. I'll introduce you to everybody. Somehow or another, people know him. With that being said, give me some closing remarks. You got 2 minutes left on Puerto Rico. Tell the people at home, overseas. By the way, we got representation from Middle East region media, also Chinese media, and also to Russian media as well. And we're being live streamed to a variety of markets overseas. Invite the people to Puerto Rico. Tell them why this is the next global hub for crypto.
Well, I think this is the first year that I've seen where the media outreach has, gotten past that lame false story right after Maria that, like, we're a band of destroyers coming in to seize land and kick people out. And they see that we've continued to go and build and give back. And we're now 5% of the economy. And, this week I spoke at length with Bloomberg, Washington Post, and it's all about, we see there's this new Puerto Rico. There's this economy that's actually working now. And a lot of it has been the people who moved down here from the crypto industry. Is this the next crypto hub? And it's like, yes, it is.
Excellent. Let me get a round of applause for the godfather of crypto, Mr. Michael Turpin.
Thanks, Pedro. Thanks for all you do.